Well, what do you know? We got to attend another wedding this week.
What?
First with House of the Dragon, now with SheHulk. So you know what time it is. Hit that intro. Woo!
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
All right, we're back. If it's your first time joining us, welcome. We're two dads who love all things fandom, from Star Wars to Star Trek, Marvel to DC, and Middle-earth on down to Westeros. We love it all, and we want to bring all of our insights and love of all things nerdy to you, our viewers. So if that's your cup of tea, we're here for you, and you should definitely subscribe to our channel so you don't miss out on all the amazing reviews and info we bring to all our favorite fandoms. So thanks for tuning in. My name's Chris Matthews, and I'm joined, as always, by my driving buddy here, the talented Mr. Matt Parham. How you doing today, brother?
Not too bad. Living it up in Denver. How are you doing, buddy?
Not driving, but I'm just hanging out up here in North Idaho. So we're reviewing She-Hulk, Attorney at Law, Episode 6, titled Just Jen today. So was really excited about that. Directed by Anna Valia and written by Kara Brown. All right.
Yeah.
Let's get into the episode. So this episode today is all about Jen getting invited to her old friend's wedding, kind of a frenemy kind of situation, and trying desperately not to be She-Hulk the entire time, even with Titania crashing the wedding. In this episode, we get to see Nikki, played by Ginger Gonzaga, Jen's paralegal and best friend, pair up with Mallory Book, played by Renee Ellis Gooseberry. They tackle several divorce cases with a man who fakes his death to get out of marriage.
Yeah.
Isn't that a lot of fun?
Oh.
So we get introduced to this character, Greg Hollis, a.k.a. Mr. Immortal, and he's actually from the comics. In the comics, there's a cosmic entity that promises Craig's dying mother to take care of Craig. His story's pretty twisted, actually, if you look up into it. The entity called Death Urge is the one that gives Craig these powers, and he actually goads Craig to burn down his house, which kills his father, and yeah, and in the comics, he has several different attempts at suicide throughout his comic run, but he finds out that he can't die, and he does this in the show as well. And he actually does form a superhero team called the Great Lakes Avengers. So it's an offshoot of the Avengers, obviously, with Flatman, Doorman, Big Bertha, Dinosaur, and Leatherboy. So
I'm going to have to look up Doorman to figure out what it is.
Doorman! I know. I love Dinah, which is spelled D-I-N-A-H,
Sure,
and Soar, S-O-A-A-R. So Dinosaur. So yeah, it's just a fun little offshoot of the Avengers, I guess, on this thing. Crazy.
Yeah.
But the guy who plays Mr. Immortal, a.k.a. Craig Hollis, is David Pasquesi.
Yep.
I wonder if I'm saying that right.
Oh, you got it.
But if he looks and sounds familiar to all you peeps out there, he actually played Mok Shay's Major Domo in Book of Boba Fett. We actually reviewed it before we actually started Fatherly Fandom.
That's
So
right.
he's that guy, everybody's least favorite Twi'lek on there. And
But do
Boba
you know
Fett.
where else he's from,
Yeah.
Chris?
I have no idea where else. That's the
So,
first time I saw this
He
actor.
actually has a little bit of history with this whole not being able to die situation, as he was the new psychiatrist that was trying to give Bill Murray comfort in Groundhog Day. If you remember there, the guy, of course,
way back in the
way
day.
back in the day, his voice is also known to us not just from Boba Fett, but old McDonald's commercials. He used to do, it was before I'm Loving It, and I tried to look up the slogan the other day, but I couldn't find it. But yeah, he's had quite the history throughout Hollywood. It's been interesting.
You know, that comes full circle, too, because, like, the mayor, Mok Shay's in Book of Boba Fett, it always sounded like mac cheese. It sounded like a mac cheese hamburger.
Yeah.
So there you go. It makes perfect sense to me. But, you know, in Book of Boba Fett, I didn't really find his humor to actually fit the Star Wars universe. But for She-Hulk, I definitely did find that this performance was perfect for the actor. And I'm really glad that they left out the history of Mr. Immortal for the show and kept it light and the levity going. Because that looking into that, I was just like, oh man, that's just his mom dies. He kills his father. It's just like, come on, yikes. So Marvel really really goes all out in the comics, as most of you probably know. And Matt, we finally get to see a decent guy in this episode when Jen actually meets Josh at the wedding, played by Trevor Salter.
I have my doubts. I'm holding my breath for the moment that Josh reveals
he's
a terrible person.
He's easily likable though, and like he represents a really good guy. Represents guys like you and I in there. So I felt like Jen and Josh had some good chemistry too in this episode. So I really did appreciate that. And it seems like, looking at Titania in this episode, once again played by Jamil Jamil, she settles her grudge with SheHulk by getting her veneers cracked during their battle during the wedding. And she ends up taking the cake as well. So I was like, oh, okay, cool. And Titania feels kind of like a villain that's just going to pop up once in a while. So to me, she doesn't feel like she's the leader behind the Wrecking Crew or any major villain. Just a villain that comes in once in a while. And we do get to see Nikki investigate the website Intelligentsia in this episode. So I don't know if you guys know this. They find this forum, and it's dedicated to trolling SheHulk, and it includes a bunch of death threats to SheHulk. It's like basically all those people on the black web that always are talking shit about everybody and whatnot. So this is called Intelligentsia, and this does have comic book roots. And so in the comics, and so Matt, I think you might have been on to something here when you mentioned this in previous episodes, but in the comics, Intelligentsia is led by MODOK, and it has many other members to this group, but notably, one of the members of Intelligentsia is the leader. So the guy that you said you want to pop up. Yep. Yes. You see Tim Blake Nelson at the end of Incredible Hulk get the chemical on his head and it grows, so leading us to believe that character would later become the leader. So maybe we'll actually get to see him in this show. Right now, the leader is supposedly going to be returning in Captain America 4, The New World Order. But maybe, just maybe, you'll be right, Matt, and we'll get to see him in the show as well with Intelligentsia.
Yeah. Or
maybe it's just a little subtle hint at what's coming in the future of the Marvel universe there too.
Right.
So we shall see. But good looking out on that one. And they said, I'm still thinking though that Todd is going to be the big bad for this season. I believe that maybe he is a part of Intelligentsia. Maybe he's even the leader's son. Could be. There's some
that's not a bad
resemblance there too.
Right?
Yeah. So they both kind of look like each other, so maybe he's his son. Who knows? We see at the end of the episode that they're trying out a new syringe in that laboratory and everything, which, if I was to venture to guess, would probably be vibranium. And Todd also asks, oddly, in that date, if her skin is penetrated by vibranium, which she doesn't give him the reason.
An interesting twist if Hulk Todd is our big bad for this season, and what he was trying to do is prove that he could be a proud son to his father, the leader, by getting his own dose of super soldier serum or whatever it is that comes out of Jen's veins to make him Todd Hulk. So
maybe, come on, writers, this is where you should go.
It's gold. Come on.
It's gold, Jerry. Gold. Yeah. So I absolutely, that would be so cool if that was the case. I could see that. You heard it here first on Fatherly Fandom. We're predicting that Todd is the leader's son and trying to get in good graces with him. That's why he wants to become the Hulk Todd. So, and you might have noticed, at the wedding, they show video from the wedding in that scene as well in that laboratory. So I'm really concerned, buddy. While I said that Josh is a pretty decent guy, maybe he's a bad guy too. Maybe he's one of the spying on Jen, and that's why he walks up to her and introduces himself and goes out of his way to talk to her. So I'm hoping not, but I got a bad feeling about this.
So. And I really hope that's not what they do, because
too good to be true.
Well, yeah, but I mean, what a cliche! The big bad gets the female superhero's, secret, or gets her blood, or gets whatever her weakness figured out by having somebody date her in secret that's a spy. I mean, that just seems like we're playing right into that stereotypical women's problems, storyline that we see in virtually
I wouldn't put it past this series.
No. So anyway,
right? And so, yeah. And for my rating, I'll give this a 7 out of 10 for me. All in all, I really did think it was a decent episode. I'm still really frustrated that we got a tease for Daredevil last week, and yet again,
it's all
hasn't
dropped.
shown up yet.
Yeah.
I'm like, where's Daredevil? But it felt more like a filler episode to me. But I can see where this season is kind of taking us now. So there's a little bit more momentum than we had. So I kind of see the structure of where we're going. Ginger Gonzaga is a jewel, and she definitely carries this whole side story. I think Nikki is one of the best characters of the show now. And my daughter actually got to see the episode too, and because she was sick yesterday, so we watched it together. And she gives it a 10 out of 10. She's loving this whole series. So every episode that we've seen so far, 10 out of 10 from her. So we've got a big fan when it comes to that. And also, it's kind of funny because this episode comes out of nowhere with the wedding story. And once again, Jen breaks the fourth wall and is like, yeah, I know this is a little inconvenient and kind of taking us away from the real story here, but that's what weddings do, and she's not wrong. So there you go. So what do you think, Matt? What other insights do you have for the listening audience?
Right. So for me, this was yet another episode that I did not find very entertaining at all. Yeah, like you said, Nikki again was the standout, and I enjoyed her performance. But I thought the whole side story, again, was just ridiculous. They keep throwing in these court battles or court cases for superheroes, and I just think they continue to miss a golden opportunity here to really explore the legalities of dealing with superhumans. But instead of getting into any of the interesting stuff that we could have with that type of material, we have to deal with marriage law for this guy that's immortal. But I didn't understand what was happening at all. Just because he can't die doesn't mean he automatically divorces people anytime that he attempts to do so. I mean, it's like I was thinking, well, everybody that a set of EMTs on the side of the road revives after a terrible car accident isn't automatically divorced whenever they get a pulse back. This ridiculous.
It's kind of a silly side story.
It's a very silly side story, and I thought there would be so much more interesting things that they could explore with an immortal person, all sorts of problems with him being ageless, or him not being able to be injured, or him causing property damage simply by every time that he gets into traffic or jumps out of a window and conveniently lands right on top of a car. I mean, this is just poster. This is cliche after cliche. I'll say that.
Yeah, definitely. But it is par for the course for the type of humor that they have in this show.
Yeah,
and so this is what we're gonna get.
Right. That's what I was thinking. Is that as I continue to view this show, I'm finding such logic inconsistencies. And it's hard for me to ignore. I still have no idea what Titania's problem is, how she's superhuman, what she was doing breaking into the courtroom, or how she seems to know what's going on with Jen, or even care. She just nobody's sort of surprised that this big celebrity social media influencer Kim Kardashian, cookie cutter socialite is attending this wedding out of the blue. Who is this other person? Just Titania, this major media mogul, shows up, and everybody's like, oh, okay, cool. Well, that happens.
Again, that's the kookiness of this show. It's like, oh, they're all cool with this. And Jen's the only one that's pointing this out, that she's there because she wants to ruin her.
I'll tell you, man, I was disappointed with the breaking of the fourth wall, because they just did it to give an excuse for a weak plot line. And I thought, man, the
Yeah.
they're they're just going. I don't know. They're going too far with the fourth wall thing. It's not like Deadpool anymore. They're literally just trying to give themselves an out for poor writing,
Yeah.
and I just don't find that enjoyable. But I did have a thought, because we try to keep it positive here. Yesterday afternoon, I was watching a show with my son called Pinky Malinky on Netflix, and it,
Right.
it's a show about
I've seen it.
yeah, it's a cartoon that's kind of a documentary style, sort of Office or Waiting for Guffman, Best in Show type. But it, like I said, it's animated, and
Yeah.
the main subject is Pinky Malinky, and he is a hot dog that is anthropomorphic and hangs out with with regular human beings, and nobody seems to bat an eye. He also inexplicably has a head injury the entire time that's covered up with band-aids. And I was watching the show with my son thinking, he loves this. He's obviously not finding the logical inconsistencies and flaws with it that I am. So this
Yeah.
is perhaps the same thing that's happening in She-Hulk, and that this show is just simply not written for either my demographic or somebody that enjoys the same type of stuff as I do, which is fine because
Absolutely
right,
fine.
I'm not going to find absolutely everything that Marvel does out there entertaining. And just because I don't doesn't make it a bad show. So if your daughter is giving
No.
it a 10 out of 10, and if you're finding it enjoyable yourself, then maybe that's who this show is written for. And the flaws that I'm finding in the plot week to week just aren't as important to audience members who are simply engulfed in the fun of it all, and like episodes that are about weddings that are just filler, and like things being dropped week to week. And
Yeah.
it doesn't bother you guys. So that's all well and good.
Yeah.
I appreciate the show
You know,
for what it is doing.
yeah.
And if it's not for me, it's not for me.
Yeah, and there's so much Marvel material out there that everybody gets a slice of the cake. So
Right.
if you don't enjoy She-Hulk, there's definitely way more ahead of you and way more behind us
Yeah.
that we can actually enjoy with Marvel. And that's the beauty of it. Everybody has their thing. So you don't have to like
Yeah.
it. I don't have to like it. But somebody out there is going to enjoy this stuff. And that brought up a really good point, Matt. Thinking of Pinky and Malinky, but also thinking of like The Office. I wish that would have been a really cool thing that they could have done with this show, is made it sort of like The Office, where she's getting interviewed every now and then, and they have a camera crew
Yeah.
coming around talking
That's
to her. So instead of
great.
actually breaking
Right.
the fourth wall, they treat it like The Office. I think they could get away with a lot more stuff. And I talked about this before. I think that this show could have been better served as a cartoon or something like that, and it definitely
Yeah.
would have been really fun and exciting for that too. And a lot of kids would really enjoy it, and they would definitely have to steer away from more of the adult humor.
Right.
But I think it could have been served just as well as a cartoon.
Yeah, exactly. I think there's plenty of shows on Adult Swim or even HBO Max. I mean, animation is now, and it's very popular both with kids and adults. They're finding audiences everywhere. So you're right. I mean, this could have been very well served as a Pinky Malinky type of more adult cartoon that balanced
True.
that out. We saw even Marvel has had success in the animated realm with What If coming out last summer. So
different storylines that don't actually have to connect as much. I don't know how much this show is going to connect to the overall MCU. It might not.
Yep.
It might. They might take things from this and repurpose them in other stuff, and maybe we'll get a serious She-Hulk at some point in time. But at the same time, it's like, yeah, like we said, this show can be enjoyable to a certain audience, and doesn't have to be enjoyable to all of us. But yeah, I'm just, again, going along for the ride, having fun, doing my thing, and I've come to at peace with the idea that this show is a sitcom and it's going to be silly and it's not going to make sense. So I'm totally fine with it.
Yeah. Well, and I will say that for me, the heartbreaking part is that I think that all the actors are doing everything that they can with the material that they're being given. Like,
for sure.
Jamila Jamil, there's just not a ton of lines written for Titanium, but the ones she is able to deliver, I find it authentic for the caricature of a person that.
Yeah, she's chewing up the scenery, and I love it.
Yeah,
It's so
so
awesome.
is Nikki. So is everybody. Jennifer, Pug. They're all doing good with the lines that they've been given. It's just not a show that makes a lot of sense for somebody like me. So, with that being said, I'll wrap it all up. I'll give this a little bit of a higher rating than last week. 5 out of 10 for me.
5 out of 10.
Yeah, I'm just not able to ignore the inconsistencies, and I really don't like things being dropped one week, not picked up the next week, and just kind of left. But I do think there's an underlying developing storyline that we get hints at, and I do enjoy all the major actors and their performances. So that is the saving grace of the show for me.
Excellent. So we got a 5 out of 10 for Matt, 7 out of 10 for me, and a 10 out of 10 for my daughter. So different perspectives all around. So thank you guys for joining us today on Fatherly Fandom. And let us know what you think of this episode of She-Hulk and the series as a whole as well. Leave a comment below. And as always, make sure you subscribe to our channel so you don't miss out on any of our amazing content here when we come out with lots of stuff. We're doing Andor now. We're going to be doing Rings of Power as well as House of the Dragon. So join us for all that stuff. And Matt, do you got anything else for us before we depart?
No, I don't think so, Chris. Great episode, and I look forward to our next one.
Yeah, glad he didn't get in a crash today. This is great.
Yep.
So.
Not today.
Oh, not today. Not today, Satan. Not today. So. All right, guys. Well, we hope you have a fantastic weekend since it's Friday. Hopefully you make it home and enjoy your weekend here. And from our families to yours,
have a good one.
Adios.